Hello and welcome back to jimmurphymp.com and my local website, and a way of keeping in touch with folk about what's happening here in the constituency and beyond. Now, one of the big things at this time of the year is the fact that increasingly people are now celebrating the work, the sacrifice and the brilliance and bravery of our armed forces here in Britain and across the world, particularly in Afghanistan at the moment. And one of the, I think, important changes over recent years, particularly now that most of the problems in Northern Ireland have been overcome, but of course there still remains a fragile situation there with extremist Republicans intent on causing trouble. But one of the big bonuses of the peace in Northern Ireland is that armed forces are now much more at ease, and it's safer to travel in uniform across Britain. And in that way they become an ever more visible part of our daily lives. And that's a good thing. But it's also important, as we celebrate Armed Forces Day, Armed Forces Week, that we think of those, of course, who still remain on service abroad. And they are certainly Scotland at its bravest and Britain at its best. Throughout the years, the things that they've done for us and what they still do for our country today to help to keep us safe, and the things that we take for granted, keep our way of life the way in which it is. So local events here in East Renfrewshire, event in Paisley, and events across the whole country at this period to celebrate those members of the armed forces. The other big thing, which is much more controversial, of course, is just the Conservative and Liberal Democrat government's policies on the budget. The way I look at it is this, is that there are many millionaires in this government cabinet than there is in the England football squad. And here they are, committed to making just such big cuts and things that matter to so many families across the country. I simply think that they're entirely out of touch. That people that are that well off, a group of politicians, probably the most prosperous group and richest group of politicians ever assembled around the cabinet table, aren't the best people to lecture the rest of the country on tightening its belt. Because many of these folk won't be affected by the financial cuts and affected by the cuts in public services just because of their own wealth. Now, that's not saying that if you're comfortably off you can't be in politics, but it does mean that they have an additional responsibility in which we carry out their policies not to hurt the poorest, and to make sure two things are achieved. Firstly, that the cuts that they're making don't affect the recovery that's now underway, that's been underway now for a little while. And secondly, that whatever changes in savings they do make, because of course savings have to be made, that the savings that they make aren't done in a way that's unfair and affect those who can't cope with it in the most acute way, and that those with the heaviest shoulders carry most of the burden. And I don't think so far they've shown an ability to either take decisions that don't create risk and unnecessary risk in our economy, and secondly, I don't believe that they're carrying out these savings in a way that is fair to public service, public servants, and to the things that we all rely on. But as always, let me hear your views. Get in touch by email, get in touch to see what you'd like to be covered in the blog in future weeks, and thanks for all your feedback on previous weeks. Thank you very much. Bye bye.